They say artists put a piece of themselves into their work. I never took that seriously. I never took art seriously. I had only painted with ink a couple of times, and one day, it switched. All it takes is one drop, and my art became alive. I became alive. The very first time, I wasn't trying to paint anything in particular. I just became obsessed with how the paint shined on the page. Bright paint. It was spectacular. I had never been so excited to paint something in my entire life. I became obsessed. I wanted to give my art more of myself. I wanted to see the paint shine even more. But the more drops I used, the darker everything seemed to turn. I went too far the first time. I did more than just one drop. Became quite lightheaded. The ink ran on the page, and I couldn't even see those bright, shiny colors anymore. But at that point, I couldn't stop. My body was a puppet to the art. The paintbrush on the page controlled me. My mind was one with the art. I had never experienced anything so blissful. I loathed how out of control I felt, but I loved the thrill of putting myself into my art. Nothing mattered. I was creating a masterpiece. I became almost as white as the page was before I had started to paint, but it was beautiful. I was beautiful. I was a masterpiece. They say artists put a piece of themselves into their work. I decided to take that very seriously, and here I am, ready to paint, ready to put an even bigger piece of myself into my work. Or at least, I'm going to try and start with just a piece of myself. If all goes according to plan, there won't be a piece of me left, and I can barely contain how excited I am to give myself away to this art form, and my work will be a masterpiece. I will be a masterpiece. Been practicing. It took a few tries, and each time it seemed like the ink got darker and darker. I did miss those bright, shining colors, but the art is what mattered. Nothing could stop me from painting. I painted simple objects. I made simple strokes, and I created a simple bit of life on a piece of paper. I wasn't actually an expert at painting, but I guess I was good enough, because it always worked. I became obsessed with how it looked on the page, how I looked on the page. The inky darkness never seemed to end. I was a little bit surprised every time, and a little bit scared, because I felt so out of control. The last thing I remember was sitting down, and then all of a sudden, I'm done, and it's beautiful. You see, when I paint, the art takes over. I can't stop myself, but none of it matters. Every stroke was beautiful. I was beautiful. masterpiece. They say artists put a piece of themselves into their work. I let my brush flow on the page, inwardly screaming because I didn't know how to stop, but it gave me so much joy to watch this masterpiece come together, even though I couldn't see the bright colors, I couldn't see the ink, I couldn't see anything. The paint swirled around, and soon I couldn't even hear the bristles of the brush. But the joy! The art controlled the artist. I lost myself in the art. It was beautiful. I was beautiful. I was